Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse. In this video, I'm going to show you how I brew this Doppelbock. This Doppelbock is probably the best one I've ever brewed. I've been brewing Doppelbocks for 6 years, I think, 7 maybe. And I really love this beer style. It's such an honest and clean beer. And still very easy to drink and complex all in one. I've made this beer, I've tweaked the recipe for a lot of years, and I think it doesn't get much better than this. It has everything a normal Doppelbock should have, just like the Paulaner monks brewed it in Bavaria 500 years ago, and then has a little extra. But all in all, it's such a clean, honest beer. The recipe is 8% ABV, so it's a strong beer, but you won't notice that. The original gravity is 1072, final gravity 1016. EBC is 42.5. It's a dark beer. You can't really see through it, but I can actually see through it here. I can see the stripes. It's kind of a brown reddish color, but dark. It has about 25 IBUs, and I think that's a perfect amount. You shouldn't be able to taste the hops in this beer. The hops are there for adding just a hint of complexity, but also to cut off the sweetness, because it's kind of a big beer, and if the hops wasn't there to cut off the bitterness, it would just be sweet on sweet and you won't be able to drink the whole thing. And this one is actually very easy to drink. I boiled it for 2 hours just to get a lot of, not a lot, but just to get some kind of Maillard reactions, but also to make it more shelf stable. So this is quite important. I actually also added ascorbic acid to the mash. That will prevent the precursors, or the ascorbic acid will react with the precursors that can actually oxidize in the end. Because a beer like this, when it oxidizes, you can really get the cardboard flavor from this. But so I added it to make it more shelf stable. So my goal is to actually keep this for about a year, and because it ages very well as well. But let's get back to the recipe. The grain bill, 42% Munich 1, 27% Pilsner malt. I like using Pilsner malt in this beer when it's such a big beer, because it kind of cleans up the grain bill. If you use only Munich malts in this, I think it gets too bready, and you can't really taste the small hints of licorice. You can't taste a small hint of caramel. But adding about 27-30% Pilsner malt, it will clean up the grain bill, and you can actually taste those tiny nuances, and I think that's really important. Then there is about 10% Care Munich 3, 7% Munich 2, 7% Vienna malts, 3.5% melanoidin, and I use that instead of a decoction. People will tell you it's the same. It's not. Decoction creates a lot of these Maillard reactions that ranges from caramel to burnt toffee to burnt bread. You won't get that just by adding melanoidin. It's a substitute, but it's not the perfect substitute, just so you know. So if you want to brew this beer and brew it to the fullest, you should make a decoction mash. But I actually don't think it's necessary in this beer because of the grain bill and because of the balance in this beer. You get a lot of complexity just by using the grain bill as it is. So the decoction is not necessary. There's about 3% wheat malt to give it a little bit better head retention, and then just 1% of Carafa Special 3 to give it the color. The Carafa Special 3 doesn't have this. Carafa Special 1 has the most flavor, number 2 has a little less flavor, and number 3 has the least flavor. So that's why I use Carafa Special 3 to give it, just to make sure that there weren't any burnt flavors, there weren't any chocolate, there weren't any coffee flavors in this. Because what we really want here is bready caramel notes and none of the above. But I succeeded in that, and that's why I use Carafa Special 3. It's boiled for 2 hours. The last 90 minutes I added Hallertau Magnum, 21 IBUs, and for the last 10 minutes of the boil I added 3 IBU of Hallertau Middle Brew, and that's it. I had to use about 4 milliliters of lactic acid, but that was actually it. Then I used 4 packages of Lannemann Novalager. This was the first time I used the Novalager because it's a new product, and I wanted to test out if that, if it was better than the 3470 from the Weihenstephaner strain. Is it better? I don't know. The Novalager was modified so that it didn't produce sulfur, but I haven't really gotten any sulfur in any of my lagers, even though I use 3470 I fermented hot. The Novalager I fermented hot as well, but I use yeast nutrition. I still keep control over my fermentation temperature, even though I don't do it cold. And I have never had a problem with sulfur or any off flavors at all. Yeah. The yeast profile in this beer is so important. You can brew a Doppelbock just by using Munich lager, and it will still taste great if you got control over your fermentation. Yeah, the fermentation can screw everything up. I brewed kind of the same beer with Kveik Lutra, which is supposed to be the cleanest Kveik. And the fermentation profile is just all over the place in that beer compared to this one. It's really important to get control over your fermentation. Yeah. I can't say that more explicit than that. It's what makes this beer. Going back a step, the mashing. I actually did a protein rest. Is that necessary? Probably not. But then I did a beta rest. Did a protein rest 15 minutes, 52 degrees Celsius. And then I did a beta rest for 30 minutes, 62 degrees Celsius. Alpha rest, 60 minutes, 68 degrees Celsius. And then a mash out at 78 degrees Celsius in 10 minutes. I've done Doppelbocks just by mashing at 65 degrees Celsius, and they turn out great, turn out fine. But I just feel that this is closer to the original, and this is probably just all in my head, but it's not a decoction mash at all. It's got nothing to do with decoction. But somehow I still feel that I'm doing a bit more out of the mash, and that makes me feel more like a German brewer, I guess. If it makes a difference, I don't know, but I've seen several award-winning Doppelbocks, and they either do a decoction or they do a step mash. All of them. You should check out Homebrews. He's got a Doppelbock, and yeah, that will show you what I'm talking about. So I feel this is the right way to do it. Yeah. If we take a look at the water, I think the water in this is pretty important. I go with the watering profile that I created from scratch, so from RO water, because it has to be low minerals. This is a kind of a thin-bodied beer, so you won't want to have any minerals building up the body. But also you want the chlorides to be at least double the amount of the sulfate. So in this beer, it's actually the chlorides are 65 parts per million, and the sulfate is 32 parts per million. But all the others are kept low as well. The calcium is 40 parts per million, magnesium 15, sodium is 20, and I think this is the perfect way to do it, because you won't accentuate the hops, but you will get that round malty breadiness. You will bring that out in a very subtle way, and that's so important in this beer style, to really get that soft malty character. Yeah, and I guess that was it. I fermented this at 70 degrees Celsius, 7 days. And then I ramped up the temperature for diacetyl rest, 20 degrees Celsius for 7 days. And then I started conditioning it. I'm actually not done conditioning it. It's been conditioning for 3 weeks. The first, I've tasted it just along the way. The first week it was kind of boozy. Second week the booze mellowed out a little bit, but then I kept this bottle in the fridge for a week, and now the booze is fully gone, and all I have left is just a great Doppelbock. Yeah. So that was all the statistics. Going in for aroma, this has a little bit of caramel, a little bready note as well. And it's not a boozy aroma, but you can smell the alcohol. The mouthfeel is it has a medium body, but it feels full. It's easy to drink. It's not thin, but it's not thick. It's easy to drink, and combined with the flavors, it's just a great Doppelbock. The flavors are bready, caramelly, just a little bit hint of nut, a little bit hint of licorice, and then but it's still clean. It's so clean. You really have to search for all those nuances, but I love that about these beers. They make you work for it, to really taste all the complexity that's actually in this beer. It's just a fantastic beer. It is complex and yet very clean, very simple, easy to drink. Yeah, I wouldn't want to change anything in this recipe. It's just a great beer. As I said, I've brewed this kind of the same beer, almost the same beer with Kveik Lutra, and it's a different beer. Everything in this beer has to do with fermentation, towards regarding cleanliness, but the flavor complexity is with the grain bill, and the hops are just there to make the sweetness go away. So in terms of flavor, bready toffee notes, caramel, a hint of licorice, sweetness that goes away with the kind of fresh feel from the hops. Yeah, it just leaves you thirsty for more. It's a big beer, it's dark, but it's not one of those beers you have to sit back, relax in the evening, drink it during the whole evening and reflect over your life. It's easy to drink, it's a fantastic beer. So I guess that was it. If you have any questions, write to me. Try it out. Other than that, just have a happy brewing out there.